He humiliated his pregnant ex in public. Then the Korean Mafia boss stepped in. The first sound was laughter. Not warm laughter.
Look at her
Not the
groveling
kind
on
that
the
drifts
floor.
easily through a
Pathetic.
crowd and disappears.
Please
This
stop
laughter
laughing.
scraped,
It hurts.
sharp and deliberate, cutting through the polished air of the mall like glass dragged across marble. Ariel froze mid-step. The shopping bag slipped slightly in her hand, the paper handles biting into her palm. She was standing beneath a skylight, sunlight spilling down in pale gold ribbons, illuminating the fine dust in the air and the faint smudges on the glossy floor. Everything looked clean, expensive, untouchable. She felt none of those things. Her body reacted before her mind did. Her shoulders tensed. Her breath hitched. One hand moved instinctively to her stomach, fingers spreading over the gentle curve she tried so hard to hide beneath loose fabric. She knew that laugh. She had once loved it. Well, look at this. The voice came from behind her, loud enough to carry, confident enough to assume it deserved attention. Ariel closed her eyes. For just a second, she allowed herself to imagine that if she didn't turn around, if she stayed very still, this would pass. That it was coincidence. That the universe wasn't cruel enough to bring him back now, of all times. But the footsteps stopped directly behind her. Wow, Evan continued, mock amazement coating every syllable. I almost didn't recognize you. The mall seemed to inhale collectively as Ariel turned. Evan stood there exactly as she remembered him, and somehow worse for it. Perfectly groomed hair. Crisp blazer. The same expensive cologne that used to linger on her pillows, now cloying and suffocating in the open space. His arm was draped possessively around a woman who leaned into him like an accessory. Young, polished, watching Ariel with detached interest. His eyes dropped immediately, straight to Ariel's stomach. His mouth curved slowly, cruelly. Oh, he said, you're actually pregnant. The word landed like a slap. Ariel felt heat rush to her face. Around them, people slowed. A woman pretended to browse handbags while listening openly. A man glanced over his shoulder and didn't look away. I asked you not to contact me, Ariel said quietly. Her voice sounded thinner than she wanted. Evan laughed again. Contact you? Honey, you walked right into me. His gaze flicked back to her belly. Guess you didn't think I'd ever see this, huh? She tried to step past him. He shifted smoothly, blocking her way. Come on, he said, shaking his head. Don't be shy. I mean, this is impressive. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. Her fingers tightened against her dress. Move. Relax, he replied lightly. I'm just curious. Who's the father? Silence pressed in. The question echoed too loudly, too publicly. Ariel swallowed. That's none of your business. Oh, I think it is, Evan said. I mean, last I checked, you were the one crying in my apartment saying you couldn't do life alone. A murmur rippled through the nearby crowd. The woman on Evan's arm smirked. Ariel felt something crack, not loudly, but deep, like ice fracturing under pressure. That was before you cheated on me, she said, her voice trembling now despite her effort. Before you told me I was too much work. Before you said that I didn't sign up to be dragged down. Evan cut in smoothly. Yeah, I remember. He leaned closer, lowering his voice just enough to sound intimate while still being cruel. And looking at you now, I'd say I made the right call. Ariel's vision blurred. Her chest felt tight, air refusing to move properly in or out. She had survived so much quietly, working double shifts, hiding nausea in bathroom stalls, counting every dollar. She had survived loneliness, fear, the weight of knowing she was bringing a child into the world alone. But this public dissection, felt unbearable. I'm happy, she said, even though it wasn't entirely true yet. I don't need you. Evan laughed outright. Happy. He gestured at her clothes, her lack of jewelry, the obvious absence of anyone standing beside her. You're broke, pregnant, and alone in a luxury mall you can't afford. Don't lie to yourself, Ariel. It's embarrassing. Her throat burned. She opened her mouth to respond, and another voice interrupted. Calm, controlled, dangerous in its restraint. That's enough. The sound cut through the space like a blade. Ariel turned slowly. The man standing beside her was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark clothing that looked deceptively simple. His presence was immediate, heavy, like gravity had shifted slightly to accommodate him. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't angry. He was something worse. Focused. "There's no reason to speak to her that way," he said. Evan scoffed. "And who the hell are you?" The man didn't answer right away. His gaze flicked briefly to Ariel, assessing, not judging, not pitying. "Are you hurt?" he asked her quietly. She shook her head. Something inside her steadied. He turned back to Evan. "Then leave," he said. "Now." Evan bristled. "You don't get to tell me what to." The man took one step forward. That was all it took. Evan stopped talking. "I suggest," the man continued evenly, "that you apologize and walk away." The silence was absolute. Evan glanced around, suddenly aware of how many eyes were watching, and how many had shifted, subtly, toward the stranger beside Ariel. "This is ridiculous," Evan muttered. "She's nothing to me." The man tilted his head. "Then this should be easy for you." Evan hesitated. Then, cowardice winning out, he scoffed and backed away. "Have fun playing hero," he snapped, dragging his companion with him. "She's your problem now." They disappeared into the crowd. Ariel's knees nearly buckled. The stranger turned to her immediately, his voice lowering. "Sit. I'm fine," she said automatically. "You're not," he replied gently. "And that's all right." She sat. The bench beneath her felt cold, solid, real. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded once. "You didn't deserve that." She looked up at him then, really looked. There was a faint scar near his jaw. His eyes were dark, steady, unreadable, not unkind. "My name is Ariel," she said. He hesitated before answering. "June." She had no idea that this was the moment her life split in two. That night, sleep refused to come. Ariel lay on her side, one hand tucked beneath her stomach, the other pressed against the thin mattress of her apartment bed. The ceiling fan hummed overhead, wobbling slightly with every rotation, its rhythmic click marking time. She couldn't escape. She replayed Evan's voice again and again. Broke, pregnant, alone. She had loved him once. God help her. She had built a future around him. Quiet nights, shared meals, the idea that stability could be something gentle. She had believed his apologies, his promises, his version of love that always came with conditions. When she told him she was pregnant, he had gone very still. Then he'd smiled. Not with joy, with calculation. "You should take care of it," he'd said. "This isn't the right time." When she refused, he withdrew, emotionally first, then physically. And when she caught him with another woman, he hadn't even denied it. "You're too emotional," he'd said. "Too needy. I can't carry you and a kid." He'd walked away, left her with the consequences. And tonight, he'd taken something else, her dignity. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. Her stomach twisted as she answered. "Hello, Miss Ariel," a man said politely. "This is Mr. Park's driver. He wanted to ensure you arrived home safely." Her heart skipped. "June?" she asked softly. "Yes. He asked me to tell you he hopes you're resting." The call ended. She stared at the ceiling, confused, unsettled. Who was he? And why did it feel like the ground beneath her had already begun to shift? They met again 3 days later. Outside the clinic, Ariel stepped into the sunlight, clutching ultrasound images to her chest, emotion swelling in her throat. She had just heard the heartbeat again, strong, steady, and it always undid her. A black car waited at the curb. The door opened. June stepped out. "I hope this isn't inappropriate," he said, "but I wanted to check on you." She hesitated. "Why?" He considered her carefully. "Because the man who humiliated you has a history of escalation, and because I don't believe you should face that alone." Her instincts warned her to be cautious. Her exhaustion told her to listen. "I'm not asking for charity," she said. "I'm not offering it," June replied. "I'm offering protection." The words settled heavily between them. "I run an organization," he continued calmly. "That comes with enemies. Appearances matter. Stability matters." She frowned. You want me to pretend to be with you? Yes. Her breath caught. And in return? She asked. June met her gaze. You and your child will be safe. Ariel looked down at the ultrasound images, then back at him. Behind her, traffic moved on. Life continued. She made a choice. Okay, she said. June nodded. Then we begin carefully. She didn't know yet that careful would become impossible. Ariel expected fear to come first. It didn't. What came instead was a strange, unnerving calm. She sat across from June in a quiet cafe tucked away from the main streets, the kind of place where conversations dissolved into the soft clink of cups and the hiss of steaming milk. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, warming the wooden table between them. He hadn't touched his coffee. Neither had she. You don't have to decide right now, June said, his voice steady. I understand this is unconventional. That's one word for it, Ariel replied. She studied him openly now. In the mall, adrenaline and humiliation had blurred everything. Here, in the stillness, she noticed the discipline in his posture, the way he listened without interrupting, without pushing. You want me to pretend to be your partner, she said. In public, around your people. Yes, and in exchange, she continued carefully, you'll protect me from Evan. And from others, June added. Once people believe you're connected to me, they will think twice. The weight of that settled heavily in her chest. What kind of people? She asked. A pause. People who solve problems permanently. Her pulse quickened, but she didn't look away. You're dangerous, she said. He didn't deny it. To those who threaten what's mine. The word mine lingered uncomfortably. And what happens when this arrangement ends? She asked. When the baby comes. June leaned back slightly. That depends on what you want. No promises. No lies. Just truth, stripped of decoration. Ariel glanced down at her hands. They were steady. She hadn't realized how strong she'd become until now. I won't be controlled, she said quietly. Not again. June's gaze sharpened, not with anger, but respect. Neither will I control you. You'll have autonomy. Boundaries. If at any point you want out, you say so. She laughed softly. You make it sound like a contract. In many ways it is. And the emotional part? She asked before she could stop herself. What if people believe it too well? June held her gaze. Then we manage that as it comes. That was when she understood something essential about him. He didn't promise safety because he believed nothing would go wrong. He promised it because he knew things always did. She exhaled slowly. Okay, she said, but I have conditions. Name them. My child comes first. Always. Agreed. No lies to me, she continued. I can handle truth. I won't survive deception. June inclined his head. Understood. And Evan stays away from me, she finished. No threats. No intimidation. A flicker of something dark crossed his expression. That won't be a problem. She hesitated only a moment longer. Then she extended her hand. June took it. His grip was firm. Warm. Ariel didn't know it yet, but the moment their hands met, the rules changed, quietly, irreversibly. The building rose from the city like a statement. Steel, glass, and silence. Ariel stared up at it from the back seat of the car, her reflection faint in the tinted window. The driver opened her door with practiced efficiency. This way, Miss Ariel. The lobby was expansive, minimalist. Every surface gleamed. People moved with purpose, speaking in low voices, their attention snapping subtly toward her as she passed. She felt exposed. Then June stepped beside her. The air shifted. People straightened. Conversations halted. Heads bowed, not deeply, but deliberately. She hadn't imagined his power. She had underestimated it. This is my residence, June said quietly as they entered the elevator. You'll have your own space. No one enters without your permission. The door slid shut. The ascent was silent. When they reached the penthouse, Ariel's breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city sprawled below, glittering and distant. The space was immaculate, but not cold. Tasteful furniture, muted colors, subtle warmth. This is too much, she murmured. It's enough, June corrected. You won't be struggling here. A woman approached, her demeanor respectful. I'm Hannah, she said. I manage the household. If you need anything at all, you come to me. Ariel nodded, overwhelmed. Later, alone in the guest bedroom that felt larger than her entire apartment, she sat on the edge of the bed and let the silence wash over her. Safety had a sound. It was quiet. That night, she wandered onto the balcony, the city lights blurring as tears finally came. Not from fear, from relief. She wasn't alone anymore. Behind her, footsteps approached softly. I didn't mean to intrude, June said. She wiped her face. I'm not used to this. He leaned against the railing beside her, leaving space between them. Neither was I once. She glanced at him. What changed? A series of losses, he replied, and the realization that distance doesn't protect you. It just delays pain. The honesty startled her. You don't seem like someone who lets people close, she said. I don't, he agreed. That's why this arrangement requires caution. She studied his profile, the tension he carried even in stillness. You're afraid, she said softly. He didn't deny it. So am I, she admitted. For the first time since they met, they shared a silence that felt mutual, not empty. The rules were simple. Appear together at key events. No unnecessary affection in private. Transparency at all times. They followed them carefully. Too carefully. Ariel accompanied June to dinners, where powerful people watched her with calculating eyes. She learned to hold her head high, to speak when spoken to read the room. June, in turn, softened around her in subtle ways. He checked her meals, asked about her appointments, sat nearby during evenings, working quietly while she read. It was domestic in a way neither had anticipated. One night, Ariel woke from a nightmare, heart racing. She didn't remember leaving her room. Only the sound of June's voice, low and steady. You're safe, he murmured, his hand resting carefully on her back. I'm here. She realized then that he had broken the first rule, and she hadn't stopped him. The next morning, news reached them. Evan had been asking questions, digging, looking for leverage. Ariel felt the old fear rise. June's response was immediate, controlled. No one touches you, he said. Not now. Not ever. She looked at him, really looked at him. You're doing more than you promised, she said. His jaw tightened. So are you. The line between pretense and truth was thinning, and neither of them knew how to stop it. Fear didn't announce itself. It arrived quietly, slipping into Ariel's day like an unwelcome thought she couldn't shake. She first felt it while grocery shopping with Hannah. The store was bright, ordinary, filled with the smell of bread and citrus cleaner. Ariel reached for a carton of milk when the sensation crawled up her spine, the unmistakable awareness of being watched. She turned. A man stood at the end of the aisle, pretending to study labels. He was tall, broad, dressed plainly. His reflection caught briefly in the freezer glass, and when their eyes met, he didn't look away quickly enough. Ariel's heart stuttered. She moved to another aisle. So did he. Hannah, she whispered, her voice steady only through effort. Someone's following us. Hannah's expression didn't change, but her hand subtly reached into her bag. Stay close. The man disappeared as suddenly as he'd appeared, melting into the crowd. That night, Ariel sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone, debating whether to say anything. She hated feeling weak, but she hated lying more. June listened in silence as she told him. His face remained calm, but something dangerous tightened behind his eyes. Did he speak to you? He asked. No. Did he touch you? No. June exhaled slowly. He wanted to be seen. Ariel frowned. Why? To remind us that you're visible, he replied. And that visibility has consequences. Fear crept back in, cold and sharp. This is because of me. June stepped closer. No. This is because someone underestimated me. He paused, then added quietly. And because they think you're leverage. The word made her stomach twist. I don't want to be the reason you're threatened, she said. You're not, he replied firmly. You're the reason I'm careful. That night, Security doubled. Cameras were checked. Men rotated silently through the halls. Ariel lay awake, listening to the distant murmur of footsteps, her hand resting protectively over her stomach. For the first time since moving in, she wondered if safety had simply changed its shape. The storm came without warning. Rain slammed against the windows, thunder cracking so close it rattled the glass. Ariel jolted awake, heart pounding, a sharp pain slicing through her lower back. She gasped, sitting up too quickly. Not again. Panic surged as the pain intensified, brief but terrifying. She pressed a hand to her stomach, breath shallow, waiting. It passed, but the fear lingered. Before she could talk herself out of it, she opened her door. June was already in the hallway, fully dressed, eyes alert. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. She swallowed. "I felt something. A pain." He didn't hesitate. "Sit." Within minutes, she was settled on the couch, a blanket around her shoulders, warm tea pressed into her hands. June knelt in front of her, his composure cracking just enough to reveal strain. "Talk to me," he said. "I think it was just stress," she whispered. "But for a second I thought." Her voice broke. June reached out, then stopped himself. "You can," she said softly. "Touch me." He rested his hand over hers. It was the first time she'd felt him shake. "I don't handle helplessness well," he admitted quietly. "I learned early that if you control every variable, you don't lose people." "And yet," Ariel said gently, "you're terrified." He looked at her, truly looked at her, and something inside him gave way. "I've buried more people than I can count," he said. "I promised myself I wouldn't care like this again." The confession sat heavy between them. "And me?" she asked. "Am I a mistake?" "No," he said immediately. "Too quickly. Too fiercely. You're the risk I didn't plan for." Thunder rolled overhead. Ariel squeezed his hand. "I'm not fragile," she said. "And neither are you. You're just human." The word seemed to wound him. Human. That night, he stayed on the couch, close enough that she could hear him breathe. Neither of them slept, but neither felt alone. Evan resurfaced on a Tuesday. He cornered Ariel outside a small boutique she'd begun visiting alone, emboldened by distance and resentment. "You really upgraded," he sneered, eyes flicking to the waiting car, the driver, the subtle security presence. "Didn't know you had it in you." Her pulse raced, but she stood her ground. "Leave," she said. "You owe me," Evan replied. "You ruined my reputation. People think I'm unstable." She laughed, short, disbelieving. "You did that yourself." His expression hardened. "You think hiding behind him makes you untouchable?" "No," Ariel said steadily. "I think it makes you irrelevant." Evan lunged. He never reached her. Two men stepped between them instantly, hands firm, unyielding. Evan shouted, cursed, struggled. June arrived moments later. He didn't raise his voice. "Let him go," he said calmly. The men obeyed. Evan straightened, trying to regain dignity. "You don't scare me." June stepped closer, his gaze ice cold. "You humiliated her in public," he said. "You frightened her. You threatened what is mine." Evan scoffed. "She's not yours." June leaned in just enough that only Evan could hear. "She is protected," he said softly. "And if you ever approach her again, you won't need to worry about reputation." Evan's face drained of color. Ariel watched it all, heart pounding. Not with fear this time, but clarity. She stepped forward. "This ends now," she said. "You don't get access to my life. Or my child. Ever." Evan stared at her, stunned. She had never spoken to him like that before. June glanced at her then, something unmistakable in his eyes. Respect. Evan left without another word. That night, Ariel stood on the balcony, the city humming below. June joined her. "You were brave," he said. "So were you," she replied. Their eyes met. The space between them felt charged, fragile, alive. Neither crossed it. Yet, the call came just after midnight. Ariel was half asleep, curled on her side, when her phone vibrated against the nightstand. The sound startled her awake, heart lurching before she even reached for it. June's name glowed on the screen. "June," she answered, already sitting up. Get dressed, he said, voice tight. We're leaving. Fear sharpened instantly. What happened? Nothing yet, he replied. That's the problem. Minutes later, she was in the car beside him, the city blurring past in streaks of light. June's jaw was set, his hand steady on his phone as messages flickered across the screen. Talk to me, she said. He hesitated, then exhaled. Someone inside my organization tried to sell information. Your routines. Your appointments. Her stomach dropped. Did they succeed? No, he said, because I intercepted it. Relief washed through her, followed immediately by anger. You didn't tell me things were this bad. I didn't want you carrying that weight, he replied. She turned to him, eyes blazing. You don't get to decide what I can carry. Silence stretched between them. You're right, he said finally. That was a mistake. The car slowed, pulling into a secure compound outside the city. Lights flared on as they arrived, guards snapping to attention. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Men spoke in low voices. Screens displayed surveillance feeds. June moved through it all with practiced authority. But Ariel noticed something else. Every few moments, his gaze flicked back to her, as if making sure she was still there. In a private office, June closed the door behind him. This is the moment where most people would tell you to hide, he said quietly, to disappear until it's resolved. Ariel crossed her arms. And you? I want you safe, he said. But I also know hiding would break something in you. She searched his face. What are you saying? He met her gaze fully now. I don't want to lose you, he said. And that makes you dangerous to me. The admission landed harder than any threat. June, she whispered, I never asked you to protect me because I was weak. I know, he said. That's what scares me. She stepped closer. Then let me choose. His breath caught. Choose what? To stand beside you, she said, not behind you. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he nodded once. All right, he said. Then we face this together. Something shifted between them, final, irrevocable. This was no longer an arrangement. It was a bond. The confrontation happened at dawn. The traitor was brought in, one of June's own, pale and shaking. The room was quiet, heavy with consequence. Ariel stood near the back, hand resting over her stomach. The man looked at her and laughed nervously. This is about her? You're risking everything for. Stop, Ariel said. Every head turned. She stepped forward. You don't get to reduce me to leverage, she continued calmly. I'm not a bargaining chip. I'm not a weakness. June watched her, unreadable. You sold information because you thought I was disposable, she said. Because women like me always are in your world. The man swallowed. But I'm still here, Ariel finished. And I'm not afraid of you. Silence followed. June spoke then, his voice cold, absolute. You underestimated her. And me. The decision was swift. When it was over, Ariel felt strangely light. Outside, the morning air was crisp, clean. The sun rose slowly, staining the sky gold. June joined her. You didn't have to speak, he said. Yes, she replied. I did. He studied her, something like awe in his expression. You're stronger than anyone I know, he said quietly. She smiled faintly. So are you. You just forgot. He reached for her hand, this time without hesitation. That night, contractions began. They were slow at first, then insistent. By the time they reached the hospital, Ariel was breathing through pain, gripping June's hand so tightly her knuckles went white. I'm here, he kept saying. I'm not going anywhere. She believed him. Hours blurred together, pain, breath, pressure, release. And then, a cry. Sharp, alive, perfect. Tears streamed down June's face as he held their child, his composure finally, completely gone. She's beautiful, he whispered. Ariel laughed weakly. You're crying. I know, he said hoarsely. I don't care. He looked at her then, not guarded, not distant. In love. I love you, he said simply. Not because you needed saving, but because you never did. Her chest ached. I love you too, she replied. Life didn't become easy, but it became real. Months later, Ariel watched from the terrace as June walked through the garden with their daughter tucked securely against his chest, speaking to her softly as if she understood every word. He had changed. So had she. She no longer flinched at raised voices, no longer doubted her worth, no longer defined herself by what she had survived. Evan was gone, exposed, irrelevant, a shadow of a past life that no longer held power. June joined her, slipping an arm around her shoulders. You okay? He asked. She leaned into him. I'm happy. He smiled, a rare, unguarded smile meant only for her. This isn't the life I planned, he admitted. No, she said. It's better. Below them, the city moved on, unaware, unconcerned. But here, in this quiet space they had carved out together, something extraordinary had taken root. Not rescue, not ownership, but partnership. Ariel rested her hand over June's heart, feeling it beat steady and strong. Some humiliations are meant to break you. Others are meant to wake you up. Thank you for listening to He Humiliated His Pregnant Ex in Public. Then the Korean Mafia boss stepped in. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world. Until next time, Red Heart.